be the first brand you think of when you're looking for storage. Yes, MSI is renowned for their GPUs, motherboards and laptops, but storage? Well, they've just added some into their fold now, and we are looking at their first PCIe 4.0 SSD, the MSI Spatium M480 PCIe 4.0 NVMe M.2. Pretty interesting, right? I'm Winston Chan from PokdeLIVE and let's check it out! Let's start with the specifications because I do believe that it is quite interesting to most of us. We received the 1TB variant of the Spatium M480, which gives you 931GB of usable space. It touts support for PCIe 4.0 X4 interface, just in case you haven't realized that from its name. You get the proven Micron 96-layer 3D TLC NAND along with 1GB of DDR4 cache with the latest Phison E18 as the controller. This combo gives you speeds of up to 7000 MB per second read and 5500 MB per second write, and a good endurance of 700 TB return. Now, let's get down to the unboxing. The packaging looks good, especially when you consider how uninteresting the packaging of certain SSDs we have checked out previously. The capacity and rated speeds are very clearly highlighted with a sticker at the top, and you also get a nice stylized peek at the drive inside, but we'll get to that in just a bit. The back doesn't have more details about the drive, aside from mentioning the 5-year warranty period and the fact that it supports the PCIe 4.0 X4 interface, something which we have established repeatedly by now. In the box, we don't really get much else aside from the Spatium M480 itself, protected by clear plastic. There's also an installation guide, although I somewhat doubt you will need to read it to install a M.2 SSD. Now let's take a closer look at the drive itself. The Spatium M480 has some nice golden accents on its stickers, although it is quite sad that you won't get to see it on most motherboards because of the way that you will probably be putting it under a heat spreader. I'm quite surprised MSI didn't park the Spatium M480 under the Mac series though, considering the use of gold accents here. That's a design language featured on the MSI's flagship MEG motherboards. As we have the 1TB version, the back of the M.2 stick does not have any chips. You do get a sticker here, but this one only tells you that you will void your warranty if you remove it. I do believe that the 2TB version will have NAND modules here to make up for the capacity. There's actually another version of the Spatium M480 with an actual heatsink with this gold essence, but unfortunately we didn't get to check that one out, so we can only show you an image of it right here. With that out of the way, let's talk about its performance. We used the following test system for the benchmarks, featuring the Intel Core i5-11600K on the Aorus Z490 Master. We also have the GeForce RTX 3070 Ti Founders Edition graphics card and Clef Bolt XR DDR4 3600 memory, but obviously these two don't really affect the performance. Rounding off the specs, we have the Master Liquid ML240R and Cooler Master V850 Gold power supply mounted on the Cooler Master MF700 bench case. In Crystal Disk Mark, we have the drive pushing 7069.77 MB per second sequential read and 5438 MB per second sequential write with an 8Q def and 1-thread test. This is about right on the money of MSI's claims of 7000 MB per second read and 5500 MB per second write. At the random 4K test with 32Q def and 1-thread, we see an impressive 896 MB per second and 715 MB per second read and write respectively. We see figures of 218K IOPS and 175K IOPS when it comes to random read and write as well. Now moving on to ASSD, we see the performance taken down a notch to 5784 MB per second read and 5157 MB per second write, but this is still really fast as compared to existing PCIe 3.0 drives we have tested. Access times are also chart-topping at just 0.016 milliseconds for read and 0.015 milliseconds for write. As compared against the Kingston KC2500, which is the fastest PCIe 3.0 X4 SSD we have tested previously, speeds have essentially doubled when it comes to sequential write and read, while we are seeing the 64-thread 4K write performance triple. The aggregated score of 8487 in SSD. Now, start this off by saying that MSI might not be the first brand you think of when you're looking for storage. Yes, MSI is renowned for their GPUs, motherboards and laptops, But storage? Well, they've just added some into their fold now, and we are looking at their first PCIe 4.0 SSD, the MSI Spatium M480 PCIe 4.0 NVMe M.2. Pretty interesting, right? I'm Winston Chan from PokdeLIVE and let's check it out. Let's start with the specifications because I do believe that it is quite interesting to most of us. We received the 1TB variant of the Spatium M480, which gives you 931GB of usable space. It touts support for PCIe 4.0 X4 interface, just in case you haven't realized that from its name. You get the proven Micron 96-layer 3D TLC NAND along but yeah. So I'm sorry I didn't turn on the mic earlier, but welcome to episode 125 of PokdeLIVE, and this week, as you guys have probably known from the teaser that was published probably a few hours earlier. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry Melvin, just turned on the mic. Should be able to hear me now, right? OnlyFans, top fans, maybe we should start the OnlyFans? But yeah, actually there is a supporter button on our page now, so if you are interested to be part of our OnlyFans, you can support us through Facebook. You don't need OnlyFans for that. There's one ugly mouse. I don't know why you're hating on my Gladius 2. It is one beautiful mouse. The only problem right now is that the cable is damaged, because I don't even know how I damaged it. Hi Muhammad Safwan. So yeah, this week we'll be talking about the recent news updates and also, a little bit about the 12th gen processors, which, we just reviewed. If you guys missed the review, you guys can go check it out, but also we'll be going through it in a little bit, so you can stay tuned for that. So the first thing that I'm gonna do today is announce the winner, because I noticed that I have always announced the winner a bit late. So yeah, so the giveaway winner of last week is Hanif Chia. So if Hanif Chia is watching, make sure to PM us, you know the drill. PM us with your address, your phone number, and we'll get to processing your prize for you. So yeah, this week we're actually giving away a pen drive, which I forgot to bring to the table. So hold on. So yeah, that's proof that this is live and not a pre-recorded sequence. So yeah, this is the pen drive that we are giving away next week. So yeah, make sure to leave a comment and you'll be in the running for the giveaway. The giveaway is rigged, definitely not, because we use comment picker, and maybe next week we should do it live so that you guys can see that it's not rigged. But we'll see about that. It's not my name. Lol. So alright, so let's get to business today, and I think the first thing we're gonna talk about is pretty sad thing, I say, for Malaysians, I would say, because he is after all a Malaysian. And the first thing would be pen drive inventor faces 2 years in jail. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, I would say, because right now, as you might have known, he is actually a Malaysian. And he founded Phison in Taiwan, and he gave us the pen drive. So they actually, which ironically is also, it was actually not, it was a coincidence, and I'm giving away pen drive today. But yeah, the pen drive brand is actually his creation, while thumb drives actually is a more debatable topic. Apparently there are many people laying claim to that, to being first to make pen drives. But yeah, he is the one who created pen drive, the brand, and thus currently the main issue is that he is facing 2 years in jail because apparently he was falsifying his financial records. So in Taiwan, that is a much more serious thing than in Malaysia. So yeah, and he's gonna be facing 2 years in jail if he doesn't come clean. So Phison, the company, has already made an announcement, sort of a statement that they are cooperating with the authorities there. So hopefully they can clarify this, or either they clarify it to his favor, or when it finally ends up that he is actually in the wrong, he will get his due punishment. Obviously, even though he's Malaysian, we can't side with him because he is a criminal. But yeah, Phison has confirmed that the company will work as usual, regardless of this law issue. So yeah, that you don't need to worry about your SSD running out of stock or anything, because yeah, Phison will continue running regardless what happens to their founder, which is kind of sad, but yeah, it is happening. Or 2 years jail. Yeah, but I think it's probably quite okay, but they didn't actually reveal how much he embezzled. So basically what he did was apparently falsify the company's financial records, and then so he transferred money from the company in Taiwan, the Phison, to subsidiaries in Hong Kong, to avoid taxes and, to be able to use the money for himself. So I don't exactly know how much did he do with that kind of money, or what did he do with that kind of money, but yeah, it is wrong because you're not paying the taxes and whatnot. So see how. Makan free 2 tahun. We always say makan nasi kari. I don't know whether it's the same case in Taiwan. Maybe they eat something else in Taiwan. So the other thing that I find kind of interesting is that Xiaomi, they released a new liquid cool technology, which is actually based on vapor chamber, but with a little bit of changes along the way that allows them to, be more efficient than current vapor chamber technologies. So the one thing is that instead of having a large plate, they now have a loop, which gives it its name, I guess. And you have an evaporator and a condenser. So it's like a a heat exchanger of sorts, whereby you get the hot air from one end to move to the other end, where it's condensed, become liquid, and then when it's liquid again, you go back to the evaporator. So that's actually what happens in a vapor chamber as well. Basically, you have the liquid turning from a liquid into a solid, so that can transfer to the other side where it's cooler, turn back into liquid and come back. But according to Xiaomi, the way that vapor chambers today are designed is that there is more resistance, because when it turns to vapor, it actually runs into the liquid coming back from the cool end, and that creates a sort of resistance, which reduces the efficiency of the cooling. So what they did was they created this kind of loop, and with this loop, and also this Tesla valve here, which prevents the hot vapor to go the wrong direction. This single direction flow is more efficient, whereby you have the the hot gas from one end moving to the condenser area, where it turns back to liquid, and coming back to the hot end to be turned into gas again, to be a lot more efficient, because they're not running into each other. So according to Xiaomi's internal testing, because this technology is not implemented in any device yet, it is apparently 100% more efficient, and it drops temperatures by 8.6 degrees compared to a normal vapor chamber. And they tested it in the Mimix 4, which has a pretty big vapor chamber to cool the Snapdragon 888 Plus. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting technology, and I think it's probably just in time for the Snapdragon 898, because apparently the Snapdragon 898 is going to be as hot as the Snapdragon 888, just that it's a lot more powerful because it is based on the new architectures. But yeah, we have to see how Xiaomi implements this, or whether Xiaomi themselves will implement this, because they also have a few other sub-brands under them, which might make better use of a cooling system this advanced, because Xiaomi's devices are more or less like more lifestyle oriented, so they are probably more focused on the camera technology than outright cooling. But yeah, we have to see on that. Embezzle berjuta-juta, jail 2 tahun. But that if you embezzle your money, usually they will claim the money back. So yeah, I don't think that's how it works. Which minister go to jail? That's a very good question. We have multi-billionaires of ministers, and apparently they still run free. I don't know how that works. But yeah, it's probably speculation at this point to say anything about our ministers, because their lawsuits are ongoing. You can't actually speculate about crimes, because you don't know whether it's actually confirmed that they did the crime. So yeah, if they confirm they did the crime, they will be doing the time. But yeah, that's not the case right now. Looks like aircon. I think you can consider it almost like an aircon, because that's actually what aircon does. Because when your refrigerant runs, it's basically compressed, so it becomes cool. It goes to the hot end, and then when it's there, it goes to your room where it's cooler. So compressed, it's liquid. It goes to your room where it's released, and then the fan blows over it so that the cool air reaches you. And then as it's evaporating, it goes back to the condenser, the radiator, so that it cools down back again, and then goes into the radiator and goes back into one whole circle. So yeah, that's a very bad description of it, but that's technically what happens. They confirm do the crime, but they just don't do the time. Even confirmed crime can appeal and drag few years. Yeah, that's another thing, but that's the way the legal system works. I can't comment on that because I actually am not legally certified. minus the refrigerant. So yeah, instead of a refrigerant, you get vapor water. So basically, most of these vapor chambers are using water, but because it's vacuum inside, they evaporate a lot lower at a much lower temperature. So it's technically refrigerant in a way, but it's not that refrigerant that we know. It's still carrying that temperature difference, I would say. I don't know how to actually explain that. Where's my top fan badge? I loyal top fan. Want to buy top fan badge? Top fan badge. Oh, I think Mohammad Saifuddin was flexing his top fan badge earlier, so maybe you can buy from him if he wants to sell it. Yeah, but we do not give anything special to top fans yet, so have to see if it's worth it. So the next one is MSI's recent release. So as you guys know, now it's the 12th gen, and MSI actually took the opportunity to announce a few other products along with their motherboards to support the 12th gen processors. So of course, the first thing would be the new MSI Z690 motherboards, which I do believe are kind of interesting. And actually, more recently, there was a leak of the MSI Z690, MSI Max Z690 Extreme, which is an extremely large board. Sorry, not Extreme, Godlike. So yeah, they have the different name. So yeah, it's a much larger board, and it is gonna be nearly a full eATX size. So most eATX motherboards you see in the market today are actually not exactly meeting the full eATX requirements. Not requirements, as in not fully taking up the full space that eATX offers. So the full eATX size, if I'm not mistaken, is 305 by 330, but the Extreme is 305 by 310. But that board is not officially announced yet, so we have to see when they officially announce it to know what the features are coming with that. But yeah, the other MSI Z690 motherboards are already here, and we have already talked about them previously in a previous article, so you can go check that out if you're interested in MSI's motherboards. They do have quite a lot of designs, and I think they look kind of interesting. And obviously, you know, they support all the features that 12th gen Intel Core will bring as well, including, like, you know, DDR5 support, which I think is kind of interesting because DDR5 I just tested with the Intel 12th gen Intel, and it seems to provide quite a lot of performance improvement for, you know, including the graphics performance and stuff. So yeah, that's quite a nice thing. But obviously, if you want to get a DDR4 motherboard with your 12th gen processor, you can as well, because there are options for that as well, and from MSI and other brands too. And the next thing that they upgraded is this Easy M.2 clip, which I think is probably something that enthusiasts are into. Probably not everyone, but yeah, it's M.2 clip, and it basically allows you to mount your SSDs without having to screw them down. So it's like a single easy clip, which is a very good innovation. I played with Asus's version first, but I haven't tried MSI's. But I do believe it should be along the same lines because it's a very small thing. You can't really make too much innovation with it. But of course, when we get the MSI motherboard, we'll see it in closer up. And of course, with these 12th gen motherboards, you get, with this Z690 motherboards, you get a lot of M.2 slots because the processor comes with PCIe 5 support for the graphics card. So there's 16 lanes of PCIe 5 with 4 lanes of PCIe 4 of the CPU. And the chipset itself also supports PCIe 4, so you get 12 lanes of PCIe 4 of the chipset, which gives you up to 3 PCIe 4 SSDs. So obviously in this design, these graphics that they show here, you can have 3 M.2 PCIe 4 SSDs along with a PCIe 3 SSD. So obviously this is all coming off the chipset. I think probably the first one is coming off the CPU and the rest are coming off the chipset. And obviously with 12th gen, you know, you probably have seen some reviews saying that they draw a lot of power. In our review, actually, it didn't draw that much power over the 11th gen. But yeah, every year motherboard manufacturers are trying to outdo each other, you know, in terms of the power delivery. And here you have 105 amp smart power stages, and you get up to 12, I think 20 power stages with this 105 amp power stages. So there's a lot of power potential there, and shouldn't be any problem, you know, delivering even the 300 something watts that some of them managed to test it too. So in our testing, we got the 12th gen up to about 260 watts, which is still very high, and it's definitely a challenge to cool even with a 360mm radiator. But yeah, it's definitely not the 350 that we have seen from some other reviews. I know what they did. They used Prime 95, which, to be honest, is not exactly a real world workload. I do believe that what I do is more real world, but then again, that's the point of having more reviews all over the place, so that, you know, you can see which review best suits your usage scenario best. And of course Thunderbolt 4, because there is Thunderbolt 4 support, and with so many PCIe lanes, you can add Thunderbolt 4 support to most motherboards anyway. And yeah, of course, these are one of the first few motherboards with USB 20 gigabit on the front front I/O. So instead of the header supporting only 10 gigabit, now you can get up to 20 gigabit speeds on the front panel, which is cool and all if you have SSDs that support that kind of speeds. We do actually have a SSD that does support that kind of speeds, and we'll be testing it soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And the rest of it is mainly on the cooling, because yeah, MSI's design, I would say, is mainly focused on the performance. You can see that they don't really have a flashy design. It's not exactly like a RGB leaden like their previous motherboards. And so yeah, they have a lot of heat sinks and everything, and even the back plate is made of aluminum, which is kind of cool. A lot of motherboards, even very expensive ones, don't have back plates. And while I would say that backplates don't seem to contribute to cooling much, it does help to keep the motherboard more stable and sturdy when you mount it onto your case. Especially more important if you have very big graphics cards or GPUs. Very big graphics cards or CPU coolers if you are into air cooling. So the backplate will help to prevent the PCB from bending and damaging your motherboard. And since motherboards are getting more and more complex, with more and more traces, with PCIe 4, I think the traces should be more sensitive, and having a backplate should help, keep them more rigid so that, you don't damage those traces. ASUS a similar thing for the M.2. Yep, that is true. And of course, they also announced their 12th gen based desktops, which is the Mac Aegis Ti5. Apparently they call it Ti5. The Trident X, the Infinite S3, and the Codec X5. So these are pre-builds based on 12th gen processors, and I don't know which one you'll be coming to Malaysia, but they do look pretty interesting. And I think the Trident X should probably be the most interesting one if you are into small form factor PCs, because the rest I think is like more or less normal desktops, except yeah, the Aegis is kind of odd looking, it's tilted, but yeah, it's desktop PC size. But this one is like a PS4, PS5 size, so the performance out of a small compact thing always impresses me, because I like the spicy chili padi kind of thing. But yeah, more RGB money. With MSI motherboards, they used to go with a lot of RGB previously, but then in recent times they have scaled down very significantly, and it is quite noticeable. I don't know if you are a big fan of RGB. Personally, I am quite a big fan of RGB, but yeah, I think the benefit of having RGB on your components is that you can turn them off. But if you don't have RGB, you can't turn them on. And usually adding RGB means adding more wires, and yeah, not into that kind of thing. New MSI QD Premium Color Series monitors. So yeah, they've previously been doing quantum dot monitors. The first one I think was the Artemis 34, which we did review, and you can go check it out. And now they're also coming out with mini LED versions, which should improve your contrast ratio as well, because with mini LEDs you can turn off the mini LEDs as when the area is dark, so you get deeper blacks, and that's something that is pretty new, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how was the oldest mini LED display, but yeah, it is one of the newer gaming monitor technologies, because obviously OLED gaming monitors is not really a thing yet, because yeah, I don't think anybody wants burn in on their gaming monitor. But yeah, mini LEDs don't burn in because they're still based on IPS technology or quantum dot. So yeah, no burn in worries, and it still gives you the kind of deep blacks which you will want, when you're playing very deep atmospheric games. For example, like horror games, which have a lot dark, and you can get the more realistic jump scare. And of course, they have the modern series of pre-builds which are more towards the office and the creator direction, as well as also the creator monitors, the MSI modern monitors. And the last one is the Summit series monitors, which are more like, I can't really know what is it for, probably for the office. It looks like it's very good in terms of, the color response and, the design. So probably it's also for creators, which is kind of good, because I think creator monitors are generally more interesting, because actually there are some creator monitors that go up to 120Hz as well. And I think, gamers probably can take advantage of that, because even though you think that you are gaming only, you can go with just high refresh rate, but there are actually a lot of other parameters that go into your experience, like for example color accuracy, the response time of the display and whatnot, which can provide for a better gaming experience. And I think it's especially important for people like us when it comes to gaming/creator monitors, because we do both on the same monitor. So not having to sacrifice one thing for the other is always a nice option to have. And yeah, that's about it for the MSI's new lineup. And I think we should be looking at some of the MSI motherboards soon enough, I'm not sure. And maybe their monitors as well, so yeah, stay tuned for that. Motivation plus 10. What? Oh, you have RGB and more motivation. Technically, yeah, I actually feel very happy. I have a mood thing whereby, I wake up and then I go to my desk and press the spacebar, just turn on the keyboard, look at RGB for a few seconds before I get with my day. So yeah, maybe you can say that RGB does improve motivation. Let Razak give me money. Okay, that one we should not go to. How come Pokde never review Prism Plus monitor? Well, Prism Plus never contacted us, and yeah, I don't know. I actually have recently been seeing quite a bit of negative feedback about their monitors, but yeah, we didn't get the opportunity to review them. But if Prism is watching and they want to send us some for testing, we will be more than happy too. So yeah, if anyone is from Prism watching the video, so make sure to leave us a comment, PM us, Bos belum beli. Yes, Prism doesn't pay. Hey, you don't say that, man. There are a lot of brands that send us products without paying us to review them, because obviously we don't charge for our reviews. So yeah, we charge for other stuff, but not reviews. So that's what our reviews are always honest. I try my best to be honest. And sometimes there is always, the factor of my fanboyism getting in the way sometimes, but usually there is not such a thing. And that's especially the case as we move into the next review, which we were talking about, which is the Intel Core i9-12900K. So you guys probably know that I really like how the other brands don't pay. It's best that actually don't pay for reviews, because if you pay for a review, no matter what you say, you will be influenced, because obviously you are getting money for your service, and obviously it's going to be a lot harder to say bad things about the product because you're paid. So in most of the cases, we don't charge for the reviews, and we give them our best feedback so that you guys get the best opinion of the product, honest opinion, and also they get feedback for their product to improve. And I think the feedback has actually been put to use in some cases. Like for example, Asus, I complained a lot about the print screen. Hopefully next year's product will have print screen button back. And yeah, there are certain products which I don't exactly remember, but they do implement some of our feedback to improve the product so that you guys get a better product and we'll be happier with the next product. I never saw tech sites review the products. I guess it's probably because they don't send it to tech sites and they prefer to go with KOLs, so there is always different marketing opinions and we can't judge them for that. How I get makan? Bos bayar. So yeah, the i9-12900K review, and I do think that this is Intel's redemption arc. So if you guys have seen the review of the i9-11900K, I really didn't find much point with that processor, because it was just marginally faster than the 10900K, and it lost 2 cores, which in the end resulted in worse gaming performance in some games. So it wasn't exactly great, and I think at that point in time, AMD was releasing their Ryzen 5000 series processors, which made the 11th gen all the more, like lackluster. But now with the 12th gen, actually, Intel has come up ahead, so yeah. And we'll go through really quickly because, I think you guys probably have read the review if you guys are interested. So yeah, 12900K gives you new hybrid architecture, which we talked about, I think, last week. And also the fact that you get PCIe 5 and DDR5 on the thing. And also we talked about the chipset a little bit earlier, because yeah, this is actually quite a huge upgrade from previous generation, because previous generation, if you guys remember, the Z590 didn't have PCIe 4, despite the processor having PCIe 4. So you got only 16 lanes from the to the GPU and another 4 lanes to the SSD, which I would say is decent enough because you don't really need that many fast SSDs. But yeah, for the enthusiasts who really want to go with more PCIe 4 SSDs, this is probably the platform to go with. And in fact, they actually have more PCIe lanes available to the user than even Intel, the AMD X570. And also the fact is that the chipset is supposed to be cooler because it has a 6W TDP versus AMD's 11W TDP. So TDP is usually not measured exactly in the same way, so maybe the temperatures will end up being the same. But yeah, the easiest way to look at it is that if you look at X570 motherboards, they mostly have a fan, but Z690 motherboards, they don't come with a fan, so it should be running cooler. So the TLDR just don't get this i9. I would say this i9 is probably worth considering if you want the best in terms of performance, but yeah, generally i9 is only for those absolute enthusiasts, the hardcore enthusiasts. If you want to look for value, I think the i5 and i7 are probably the better options. I have the i5 with me, but I haven't reviewed the i5, so stay tuned for that. I'll be comparing it against the stock 11900K to see whether, you know, the i5 has what it takes to compare against the 11900K and see whether, you know, whether it's probably a worthwhile upgrade, because it does offer you quite a bit more performance. And the fact is that the 12600K i5 has 10 cores versus the 8 cores. So obviously I know that the cores are not the same, but yeah, it's a pretty interesting move. I want to see how it looks like. So yeah, these are the specs and whatnot. And I think in Cinebench is probably the easiest way to see how Intel has improved. So we go from 600 something score in single core all the way to 700 something, which is a huge step forward, because the Ryzen 9 5950X only scores about 643 if I'm not mistaken. They actually have a guidance on that. So yeah, this is a little bit faster than that. And probably next gen AMD will be even faster, because obviously, you know, they're competing. But yeah, this is a very easy way to look at it. And I think one main question that you probably have with the review is why I didn't include the Ryzen 9 scores, because the first thing is that we don't have the Ryzen 9 with us right now, and second thing is we don't have a Ryzen 9 platform. And the other thing is that the Ryzen 9 scores that we're comparing to was taken during the Ryzen 9 review back then, which was on Windows 10, so I don't think that it is 100% directly comparable. And the fact is that we also got a new GPU in, the RTX 3080 Ti. The RTX 3080 which we used to review the Ryzen 9 is already not with us, so we can't exactly compare that either. So yeah, we decided to leave it out of the charts entirely, but we do mention it in the review, so if you want to go check it out and see whether you should upgrade from the Ryzen 9 5950X to the 12900K, you can go check it out. But just flat off, I will tell you it's not going to be worth it, because both are very good processors, and if you are using one, you shouldn't need to upgrade to the other. The main question would probably be, if you are using an old processor, should you upgrade to whether the AMD processor or the Intel processor? So when we're touching about that, obviously you have to remember that, you know, the AMD processor is supported on a much older socket, so you can use AM4 motherboards dating back to the XY70 launch, which was 2019. So yeah, it's not gonna be much of an issue there if you already have a AM4 motherboard right now. I think the easiest option would probably be just to go for the 5950X. But if you are planning to upgrade from, let's say, maybe an older AMD motherboard, the FX series, or maybe, you know, the first gen Ryzen, or maybe, you know, you're upgrading from Intel 8, 9th gen, maybe even 10th gen, then yeah, this is probably worth considering. So yeah, across the chart you can see that, you know, Intel has improved quite well, and I think the most visible improvement is when you get to the higher core counts, higher thread counts, because yeah, at about 8 thread, you know, you can see that the Intel 11900K starts to stop scaling because it only has 8 cores. So above that, you know, the i9 12900K goes much faster. At the lower thread counts, actually not much of a difference. So I think if you're coming to like a very low thread, very low, very minimally, very lowly threaded games, you won't really see much of an improvement. But once, you know, your games can take more, you know, it starts to scale up really quickly. And 7-zip actually gives this 11900K a small win. I don't exactly know why, but I do believe it's probably related to the cache architecture, or maybe that, you know, the 7-zip was not taking full advantage of the P cores. But yeah, but in all core, obviously they make a good win. And when we compared against the Ryzen 9 5950X score in, you know, during the review of the 5950X, the AMD processor does take a win in the decompressing section, pulling a good 46% better score. But in the compressing section, Intel wins. So it's like really trading punches at this point. And 3D Mark times Pi, we only can compare between, you know, these two processors right now, because we only have these two. And yeah, obviously more cores give you better performance in this benchmark, and that's what you get. But I think if you are planning on, you know, using the iGPU for whatever purpose you have, it is actually a lot faster with the 12th gen. I don't know why, because the performance difference, I think there's a slight difference in the clocks. I think about 250 megahertz. But, you know, you can see that there's a pretty huge gap in terms of performance. So oddly enough, overclocking the CPU also gives us slightly better GPU score. I don't know why. But yeah, I think probably because of the cache, maybe. And yeah, the other main benefit of the 12th gen is that it has a much faster quick sync block, I think. So I don't exactly remember them talking about the quick sync performance, the faster the block, the encoding. But yeah, you get much better quick sync on the 12th gen. So with here, you can see that the 12th gen is about like 50% faster. So when it goes to, when we're exporting, because these workloads are actually running at the same time, Premiere Pro and Lightroom are running at the same time. So this is a really heavily multi-threaded, multitasking workload. Obviously, I don't think many people will be doing Lightroom importing, exporting, and Premiere Pro exporting at the same time. But yeah, you get a lot better performance when exporting because obviously you have more cores to play around with. So while your cores are handling the export, they're also being able to export the images at the same time. And the export on the video using the quick sync is very interesting because you get like, half this time, which I don't exactly know why, but if you are using the iGPU to do your video exports, this 12th gen is a no-brainer. I don't know whether it will be translated to, when the non-K processors come out, but yeah, it's probably something interesting to look forward to. And gaming performance, yeah, there are improvements, but not really huge. Some of them, on average, we are looking at 7%. Some games we get bigger leaps, some games we actually get worse performance, like Borderlands, we actually lose 2 frames per second. I don't know why. I repeated that over like 3-4 times of testing, but yeah, we lose 2 frames. And power consumption, which you guys are probably worried about. So yeah, at stock, on average, through 30 minutes of real bench, we are drawing about 173 watts. And temperatures are also quite cool at 66 Celsius on of course, there's a 360mm radiator that we're talking about, but manual 225 watts overclock, which okay. Temperatures, average temperatures are 9, but the peak temperature is actually 94 Celsius, so not great. So yeah, but probably, as you might have seen, in gaming, overclocking doesn't seem to yield much gain. So if you're only gaming, probably you can leave them alone and not, overclock it as much. Probably, go for a more conservative overclock. But yeah, I would say that it's quite interesting because we managed to push the P-core or the P-cores up to 5.2 GHz, which is the single core boost limit, which usually most processors won't be able to do this, but with our sample we managed to, and I find it quite interesting. I did try 5.3, but it was not stable. So yeah, I think even if it was stable, it probably won't be able to cool it. How mine can run so cool? I think because our ambient temps are 25. I don't know about your ambient temps. Maybe your voltage, I don't know. My voltage I set in the BIOS to 1.35, I think. 1.4, I think 1.4. What's the actual setting that I set? I did list it down. 1.375 with the LSC at level 5. And yeah, that's about it. So the pricing is probably the most interesting part. I don't know actually how much it will cost in Malaysia. I think it's like 2 point something K. But yeah, price between the Ryzen 9 5900X while being performance on par with the 5950X is probably very interesting, and I do expect to see more competition coming up. So obviously with the 11th gen, I think it was a no-brainer, despite the fact that the 11th gen is not so good. You had to get the 11th gen because the Ryzen 5000 series were quite hard to get. But yeah, the value was not really there. But with the 12th gen, I think it's a lot more evenly matched. So yeah. Okay, my ambient is 22. Oh, then that's bad. 32, even I would overheat. Yeah, DDR5 versus DDR4, you can go check out on TechCritter. They actually have the review, so you can go check that out. We didn't get the DDR4 motherboard to test, so that's kind of sad. GPU boleh hold, takkan new Ryzen tak boleh hold. GPU nak hold tak nak hold pun tak dapat beli, sedih. It's like a phone processor but bigger than 12th gen. Yeah, technically you can say that. It's a almost similar concept, but I think the target workload is probably different. Yes, the i7 also. I don't have the i7, I only have the i5. Intel centers the i5 and i9, so if you want the i7, maybe you need to disable the cores. That will take some time, and we'll be doing it a lot later. Want to buy but wang tak. Well, there are a lot of meme coins apparently. My girlfriend told me that there are a lot of meme coins that are performing very well. Maybe we can try that. This is not financial advice, by the way, so yeah. AMD 6000 series still MIA. This is the GPU or the CPU. If you're talking about CPU, I think they'll probably be announcing it next year. So yeah, most probably not so soon. If their GPUs being MIA, I don't know, because personally I'm not a big fan of the 6000 series, the RX 6000 series. There are highlights among them like the 6800 and 6800 XT. But yeah, I actually, if you talk about graphics cards, I do have a preference for Nvidia. So yeah, that is my point, whereby our fanboyism might get in the way of the review, but we try our best, to put that aside to give you guys the best opinion that we can get. Single DDR5 is already dual channel. Technically yes, but no. Like Noir Black says, it's not exactly real dual channel because you still get 64 bits to a single stick, but they're split into two. We did actually talk about this in a previous article comparing DDR5 to DDR4. So yeah, you can go check that out. So you do get dual channel technically, but it's a much narrower channel, so you don't get the same amount of bandwidth through that anyway. So it's not the fullest potential that DDR5 can give you if you only use it with a single stick. Technically, a GPU is not ever urgent. Not true, because I do need a GPU because I use the Ryzen 5000 for myself. I use the Ryzen 7 5800X, and if I don't have a GPU, I can't use the PC at all. So if I didn't have one, it would be urgent. So yeah. You pass to me after this. I'll have to wait because I have to get through the i5 review as well. So for the i5 review, I'll most probably be testing i5 11 gen and the i9 11 gen. So yeah, gonna take some time. You got two sides there, yeah, but 32 bits each. Yep. Nvidia best lul. I don't know. I know that AMD drivers have improved a lot. Personally, I don't have a very good experience with AMD drivers. So I did use AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT before this, but I was running into crashes quite a lot, to a point that I keep crashing in Apex. When I enter Apex, I crash. Sometimes I play halfway, I crash. I got so pissed off, I changed in NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti. And while performance-wise, I wouldn't say that I gained that much extra performance. I actually gained a lot of stability. I do not have that kind of issues anymore. So say what you may, in my anecdotal experience, I did find a lot better stability. So yeah. Same here. So yeah, I think it's kind of sad, because AMD graphics cards are actually quite good recently, especially with the Ryzen RX 6, Ryzen. I keep calling them Ryzen. The Radeon RX 6000 series, they're actually on competitive footing with Nvidia's offerings, especially when compared to price points. But yeah, I think that's the last bit that they need. Because previously I would say that they didn't have the hardware. For example, the Ryzen 5000 couldn't compare with the the GeForce RTX 2020. 2020. The RTX 20 series, because yeah, they didn't have ray tracing. But now it's more comparable, but still, when in terms of hardware, the comparable software is still not there. But I would commend AMD for giving us a very good software in terms of overclocking, because they have plenty of tuning options. And that is one thing that I hope Nvidia can probably adopt. Because right now, for Nvidia, if you want to overclock a graphics card, you have to use something like those AIB partner software, like Precision Tweak, GPU Tweak. Is it Precision Tweak? Precision X1, I think. GPU Tweak, MSI Afterburner, that kind of stuff. But with AMD, you can use it in the driver itself, the driver software itself. But yeah, the driver is not that good. It's okay. So yeah, it's literally, if you're lucky, you're okay. If you're not lucky, on the day that you are needing your PC to work properly, that's when they'll start to mess up. And that's what I hate the most about drivers, because drivers, it's not something that you can fix yourself. I mean, if you overclock and whatnot, yeah, that's your problem. But these are running stock settings, and I don't know why they still happen. So yeah. And that's about it of me bashing on AMD. So yeah, I think I will see you guys next week. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, you guys can drop us in the comments or in the PMs. And we'll get to you as soon as we can, if we can get to you. So yep, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys